I know I keep coming back to Rupert Robert Arthur Lowe, but he is quite an interesting character because he has unsettled Farage in a way that I don't think anybody has in the last 10, 15 years. And Loki, has misunderstood the sentiment of the party and what it stands for, but he's done so in quite a ruinous way. Of course, I'm delighted. His recent implosion within Reform UK is the stuff of political theatre, one part tragedy, two parts farce. Did I say farce, or did I mean flatulence, or even a slightly more monosyllabic description of that? Once considered as an asset to Nigel Farage's populist insurgency, Lowe is now poised to become the movement's cautionary tale, a man who flew too close to the sun, only to find his wings were not so much made of wax as they were made of sheer hubris. And the fact that Lowe is poised to take down Farage doesn't mean that he's any better, of course. Two wrongs don't make a right. To understand why Rupert Low will go down, and not in a good way, as Alan Carr might say, one must examine his trajectory. Here is a man who, by all accounts, should have been a formidable figure in Reform UK, a former Southampton FC chairman with the kind of bullish, no-nonsense persona that Farage himself admires. Lowe had the credentials to be an outspoken rebel within an already rebellious party. However, his rapid suspension from the party over allegations of bullying and physical threats, combined with an increasingly desperate legal defence, suggest a political downfall fuelled not by ideology but by ego. What went wrong? First of all is the power of the whip, or the lack of the whip. And Lowe's mistake was not merely his alleged behaviour, though threats of physical violence and bullying accusations don't exactly scream trustworthy statesman. I mean, do they? They scream Mike Amesbury. What was that, the name of the man who I hope now we've all forgotten? But his failure to grasp political reality is surely the biggest the biggest thing, the biggest headline that is screamed by these accusations. He miscalculated his position in Reform. His position was as poodle to Farage, as is everybody. They're all his little helpers, believing that he could openly criticise Farage's leadership and not suffer consequences. The party, eager to professionalise under Farage's leadership, responded with swift suspension, making it clear that dissent wouldn't be tolerated if it came with a side order of toxicity. And the second thing, legal bluster is a sign of weakness. The moment a politician declares, "My lawyers are looking into this," as Farage has done repeatedly, Farage somehow can get away with it. No one else can. You can almost hear the death knell of their career ringing in the distance. And Lowe's insistence that this is a witch hunt feels less like a robust defence and more like the flailing of a man who knows that he's lost control of the narrative and he's about to be ducked in the duck pond. Dunked in the duck pond. Farage, by contrast, was positively gleeful when asked about the potential for legal action. I shall look forward to it," he quipped in a manner that suggests he believes Lowe is digging his own grave, low down. And given Farage's knack for media management, he's probably right. And then, the whole thing, Reform UK has always been a house built on shifting sands. It thrives on populist energy, on discontent and the rhetoric of political insurgency. So this is just a little bit of turbulence. The problem is insurgencies require discipline, and Lowe represents the undisciplined element of the party, one that threatens the very structure that Farage is attempting to build on sand. And with local elections approaching, Farage wants to project stability on sand. And internal spats and rogue MPs are at best distractions and at worst liabilities. And then the wider context. As Reform UK expands on sand, it faces the inevitable growing pains of transitioning from a protest movement into a serious political entity. It doesn't want to be swallowed up by the quicksands of the past, of the history, the baggage of history that it contains, that it shoulders. The recent wave of defections from the Conservatives and Lib Dems of insignificant councillors is evidence of its increasing clout, but with growth comes the need for vetting and internal order. And Reform's decision to suspend Lowe signals that it is willing to jettison those who don't fit in with its vision, even if they were previously seen as valuable assets. Lowe's predicament is compounded by the reality that Reform UK is Farage's party, first and foremost, and unlike traditional parties with room for ideological factions, Reform is an extension of Farage's political will. Reform UK is an extension of Farage's underwear. It's the fly on his trousers. A challenge to his authorities is in essence a challenge to his manhood, a challenge to the party itself. For Lowe, there is no room back. You don't snuggle round the back of Farage's underwear. He may attempt to take his case to the courts, but political fights fought through litigation rarely end well. Furthermore, the allegations against Lowe, threats of violence against Zia Yusuf, bullying of staff, are the kind that leave a permanent stain on the underwear. Even if proven false, they've already done irreparable damage to any credibility that he thinks he may have had. The modern electorate has little patience for politicians embroiled in scandals of their own making. Rupert Low will not be remembered as a key figure in Reform UK's rise, but rather as a case study in how to mismanage one's political career. He will be remembered, probably first and foremost, as a signal of Farage's authority. His downfall is a perfect storm of arrogance, miscalculation, and the inability to read the political room. While Reform UK continues to surge in the polls like a mudslide, or a particularly odoriferous slurry of fecal overflow, Lowe is left to fight a battle that, quite frankly, no one outside his legal team seems remotely interested in. Farage, for all his bluster, understands one fundamental rule of political survival: always be the last man standing. And in this latest episode of Reform UK's drama, Rupert Low is not just standing alone, he is sinking fast in quicksand of his own making, while Farage is riding high in the slurry of success.